Anachronistic fantasy. Anachronistic fantasy. Anachronistic fantasy. Anachronistic fantasy. So, Z, why are you yelling about an anachronistic fantasy? I was listening to an old episode with Abria, and she was talking about how, like, they were talking about genre, and if you have a place you're comfortable in. I'm going back to the place that I'm comfortable in. For me, my game is set in 1970s New Jersey. I had to rewrite a lot of history to make sense with the magical war that was happening because of King Arthur. I'm pulling inspiration from House of the Dragon, as I talked about yesterday, but I'm also like, it's 1977. This is such a juxtaposition of, like, I can do whatever I want in this world. When I was playing Kids on Bikes, we were set in 2000 and 2001. I wanted to be at least semi-accurate with the technology. Not completely accurate. My player's pager got way too long of messages for what he should have been able to get. I just love it so much. And I can track it back. I can track it back to, like, ye olden Z days. When I was a small child, Ella Enchanted was my favorite movie. I literally told my players, hey, have you guys watched Ella Enchanted? My first fantasy world described it as having the escalators from Ella Enchanted and typewriters, but you still have to send your mail via a wizard. Anachronistic fantasy allows you to do so much more, and I just have to thank Ella Enchanted for that. So, we love you, Ella Enchanted! So go watch that video for the whole thing, it's great. So for me, the collaborative storytelling, I keep growing with that as I DM more. In my first game, it was really small. It was stuff like W mail being named by my players, which was our mail system done by wizards. In my latest campaign, it was them deciding little details that really became very big details. Because I underplanned a little bit for that because I was playing in a new system. I was playing in Kids on Bikes. With this one right now, we're spending the whole summer doing character building, which will lead to world building. So I'm talking to them constantly about what they want me to have control over and what they want to have control over. And yeah, so I'm trying my best with that. So one thing that I'm doing as a game master this year is just putting all of my information more publicly to my players. So I made a little site for my players in order to make them understand what was going on, have all the world building instead of me just sharing 100 million different documents with them over Discord about content warnings, mechanics. I'm gonna work with our note taker and do little recaps. There'll be player information. There's a whole section about world building, and then I have a whole section about just inspiration. This is where I put all of the playlists, which I'll talk about in another video, and all the books that I've read that are going to this, all the shows, all the actual plays that I watch that have inspired this series. They have easy access and I have easy access. So yeah. Molly made a video about her home table, so I'm gonna make a video about my home table. Obviously, Kids on Bikes is a bit different, like, table-wise than D&D, so, like, one of my first things is that my players control their adversity tokens. I don't keep track of that. That's just too much for me to keep track of. I run a table of 6. The pile sits in the middle of the table. They hand them out to each other. Depending on certain things, I let my players pick the DC for things. If it's like personal stuff that they're doing, because Kids on Bikes has the fail scale, I'll hand over the fail scale to them and be like, hey, you pick the DC. It's your, like, business. I'm going to be making them keep track of their spells and everything. Kids on Bikes is a really roleplay heavy thing, so I take the backseat a lot of the times. Unpopular opinion, I don't mind a party split. I'm just stepping in to be like, hey, let's give this player a chance at the scene. We'll come back to you guys. I had a lot of party splits. It's, I don't mind a party split. As long as I'm giving all of my players equal opportunity, I don't mind a party split. Don't hate me.
Of writers and people who run TTRPG.
It's not for the dialogue. It's for the fact that I could never come up with an ending. I have a Google folder for every year that I was writing novels and novellas, and only 3 of them ever got finished. They were realistic fiction. I never finished my fantasy stuff. The game I'm running has been a novel idea for years. I've wanted to run a Knights Academy for years. I had an Arthurian legend story idea years ago. This being a DM is getting those plots that I had ideas for but never had the endings for figured out, because I don't have to. The in-betweens were sometimes hard for me, and the endings were hard for me. Beginnings, so easy, and that's what being a DM is. Beginnings.
Y'all cool with your girl making more money than y'all? Ladies, y'all cool with making more money? Drop another diss track, and my life is yours!
Oh, it's adorable. Oh, it's traumatized.
I'd love to. I think. Would I love to? I think I just lied to you. I don't think I would love to. I think I'd find it scary, yeah. I think I find it scary. I think I'd...
Happy little thing, happy in the house. Is harming you. A lullaby.
So I'm tour making music. Don't ask me how I did it, I just did it. It was hard. I just...
Don't you know who I am? Remember my name. I'm gonna live forever. I'm gonna learn how to fly. I feel it coming together. Oh, yeah. People will see me and cry.
Table setups. They can be unique and complicated. You kind of just sit a place sometimes. Something really special happened last campaign where all of the players who were next to each other their characters ended up being siblings by the end of the campaign. 2 twin characters who sat next to each other. Our note taker and another player sat at the far end of the table. Their characters were neighbors. That just left the last 2 seats. And so the neighbor characters ended up becoming stepsisters. The other 2 became step-siblings as well. One character's mom joined the other 2 parents. So they became a big happy little family.
What do you think is the most important question to ask before joining a new table as a TTRPG player?
I think a good first question outside of is this a RP heavy or combat heavy game would be something along the lines of how often does the DM sit back and just watch scenes and not interject? I should time myself to see how long it takes me to interject sometimes, because sometimes they'll just be having a scene and it's cute and I'm not gonna touch it. They're being adorable. They're making me cry. Sorry, the voice does the thing when I'm excited about thinking about my players. But yes, I think how much agency the players have should be a part of the conversation. Is this a scene heavy thing or is this a description heavy thing, and that type of stuff. I don't know. This is my 4th year.
Well, there it is. I'm finished.
Well, I'm not. Keep it down over there.
Hey, your eyes have a little green in them.
And just for a second, I could be one of the greats I am. Caesar on a TV screen, champion of my fate. No one can tell me to stop. I love it. I'm standing too close. I can see the brush strokes. I can see us way past the summer, way past the fall.
Since when are you a Democratic Republican?
Since being one put me on the up and up again.
So clean the house, clear the drawers, mop the floors, stand tall, like no one's ever been here before or at all. And don't you mention all the inches that are scraped on the door frame. We all know you tiptoed up to 4-1 back in 08. If you could see him now, you'd be proud, though you'd think these yuppies. Your funeral was beautiful. I bet God heard you coming.
I don't have the healthiest work-life balance, and that can be seen in my RPGs as much as it can be seen in my, like, actual work and schoolwork and all of that. Because I will just straight up go up to my players, some of my best friends, and be like, your friend, your parent, you're this, you're that. I don't separate character and player when I'm talking to them because I'm so much in DM headspace that I'm just like, your emotional damage. It's a fact. And we'll have these conversations in public, on campus. I'll just be like, yeah, your mom is having an affair. So you know that feeling you get when something happens to your character and all of a sudden you're sad? That's called emotional bleed. Daniel talked about this the other day, and I wanted to pitch my 2 cents. I really got into the concept of emotional bleed when I was watching the QSMP and wanted to understand how emotions worked when it came to roleplay, because people were crying, I was crying, and we all knew it was fake. Well, our brains don't know it's fake. I always told myself I would study this more if I was a psychology student and not a, like, education major, but I think it's still important to know that these emotions are real. Every feeling you feel for your character is real. So yeah, emotional bleed. There's a word for it, and it's really, really interesting because our characters matter to us. They're a part of who we are. So yeah, love your characters, love yourself.
Baby, you say you really like it being mine, so let me give you some advice. Boy, it's not that complicated. You should stay in my good graces.
Y'all, being a dungeon master, a game master in college is hard. I don't know how people with jobs do it. I'm an education major, specifically an English education major, so I'm doing so much reading, so much homework, so much writing, plus I have to do lesson plans, and, like, be in schools and stuff. I don't have time to prep my games. My game, I run games on Saturday. It is a Thursday. I have not touched the game since last session. So, there's a designated time slot tomorrow, during game night that I'm going to prep the session for Saturday. But yeah, I'm
No, I'm speaking. 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 Thank you.
Jumping in the deep end, it's more fun to swim in. Heard the risk is drowning, but I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna bend till I break it. You'll be my favorite mistake. I wish you could hold me.
I want to take a moment to say how much I love the dynamic between me and my players specifically. They are my best friends, but they are also friends outside of me. And do you know what that means? It means my best friend approaches me most days saying, hey, I have an idea for a scene I want to run on Saturday. We don't run session for 2 weeks because we have a feast that we're throwing and we have fall break, so we're not meeting for 2 weeks. And they're gonna have so many ideas by in 2 weeks, and it's just gonna be so silly and so goofy. But I love the fact that because we are in college and we see each other throughout the weeks, they come up with ideas with each other. They come up with scenes that they want to do with each other and be like, hey, Z, can we run this? I'm like, almost always I'm, yes, you can run this.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'll see you next week. And in the meantime, take care of yourself.
Y'all, I have so many thoughts about Heartstopper and how friendship has been portrayed this season and how platonic love has been portrayed this season. And I sat there thinking about it for a little bit on my walk, and it genuinely made me think of how my game is run and how I portray and how my players portray friendship and platonic love, and personally how I portray platonic love, because I've noticed, I was having this conversation with Note Taker, my favorite NPCs are often the NPCs who embody parts of myself and show that care for people, platonic love, and just like found family. Obviously is a common trope in TTRPGs, especially at tables that are really close with each other outside of the game. And my friend group, I've realized, reminds me so much of the friend group from Heartstopper. And it's full of all these, we all have our different stories happening in our own lives, and we all have our own stories happening at the table, but at the end of the day, they all come together to make something, and they all come together to support each other. And the way our last campaign ended was them all still staying connected even after high school and all the drama that happened. It was them becoming an actual family and not found family that ends, real family. And ironically, some of them were actually family. Almost every, it was this, I've explained the setup before, but a lot of people were family in the end. But yeah, this is just me gushing about how much I love my table and my friends, but platonic love is an amazing thing. And that's all I really have to say. Alex and Daniel both said things along the lines of what I'm going to be saying, but there's a lot of talk about the need for community and how we need to stay with our communities, to support our communities. That includes the TTRPG community. We are such a diverse community, and we are full of love and full of vulnerability and full of political conversations that people don't realize are happening. But they are, and I still plan on having my game on Saturday because it's what needs to be done. It's how I see my friends. It is how we have our important conversations. It is how we be vulnerable with each other. And it just, keep playing your games, keep fighting the good fight.
I'll fake God. I'll fake God. I'll fake God. I'll fake God. Today, hop up on a cloud and watch the world decay. And not on my shoulders and relax off it.
So, many of you know that I have a NPC that I call the One Romanceable NPC. I have this in almost every campaign I've run, by accident. In my first campaign, it was because a player made that NPC. I was a new DM. Every scene, including their engagement, was a fade to black. In the second campaign, I asked my best friend, hey, do you want your character, who is canonically a lesbian, to have a girlfriend by the end of the campaign? And the answer was yes. They didn't get together at all during the campaign. 3, the current singular romanceable NPC was my best friend's NPC that they made because a player was like, I want my character's queerness to be a part of my storyline. And I was like, okay, you get a chance to have love. But yeah.
Oh well, this December I'll remember. Want you to see it when I do. Ooh, God knows I do.
You know what makes me crazy? I'm sorry, can I say this? You know what makes me nuts?